Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media. I'm Ryan Linkletter. I'm here with my co-host Brady Penn. Brady, how you doing today?
I'm great. It was a interesting day of football. I won't even say it was good football today because it honestly wasn't, but it was very interesting.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Yeah, no, dude. I mean, like I talked to you this before the Sunday night football game. It was a weird day at football, and I was expecting an interesting game here between the Texans and the Lions, and that's exactly what we got tonight. And we're already getting these comments rolling in early. We got Riley Johnson here, bro. No way. Trey Toussaint's in the house. Typical follower here. Early bird. Trey Toussaint, welcome. We got Jacob back in the chat tonight. What's going on, you guys? Why is golf trash? We're going to get right into that right now. Brady, what were your initial takeaways from this turnover fest? I mean, obviously, Goff had a horrible game tonight with 5 interceptions, and then the Texans' offense went away in the second half. What are you thinking? What are these two teams' outlooks the rest of the way?
I mean, for the Texans, CJ Stroud did not play a good game tonight, but I think it's clear to say he needs help. This offensive line is
Yeah.
bad. The only real pass catching weapon they even remotely have is Tank Dell, who is disappointed so far in year two. And then, I mean, he just needs Nico back. Nico's clearly his guy, and we thought he might go tonight. He ended up not going, and the Texans' defense obviously did everything that they could. 5 interceptions. I mean, really just gave up 2 field goals down the stretch. Can't really get that upset at them for Jake Bates hitting 2 long field goals. Um, on the Lions side of things, I think that the reason that it's hard to take Detroit over Kansas City is Jared Goff, and he showed you why tonight. I think Jared Goff is a not a bad quarterback by any means. He's a fringe top 10 guy, but I think that he's a very system based quarterback, and I think that clearly the Lions' offensive success stems from the pieces around him and the play calling as opposed to him. I know a lot of people might disagree. A lot of people the last few weeks have been saying, "Oh, is Jared Goff in the MVP race?" No, he is not, and I think he's a lot more of a he's benefiting from the system a lot more than the system is benefiting from having him.
Yeah, 100%. Shoot the rock. What's up, buddy? Welcome to the chat tonight. Riley's mentioning Joe Mixon had nowhere to run all game, and I think the Lions did a great job. Obviously, their strength on the defensive side of the ball is the front seven dominating the run game. And Joe Mixon, they were mentioning they're averaging over 150 rushing yards a game with Joe Mixon healthy, and they did a great job of stopping him tonight. But it was early on, CJ Stroud playing really well in the first half and then disappearing in the second half. And I think you hit it on the head. Basically, it's their offensive line. Like, they can't get anything going consistently because that offensive line continues to struggle. And I mean, we saw Titus Howard try to strip the ball out of CJ's hands. I've like never seen that before of an
That was
offensive lineman
insane.
strip back.
He
It's
took the
nuts. Like,
Stroud under.
he took the Stroud under, had Lions money line. He took him at halftime. It doesn't make any sense to me. And, that's why the Texans are a weird team. And, you mentioned Nico coming back. I do think that it helps them a lot with their consistency because we saw two different teams between the first half and second half on offense. But what I'll say this year is the Texans just don't feel ready to be in that Super Bowl conversation. And the Lions side of things, I do think they are in that Super Bowl conversation, but Jared Goff is a problem. You nailed it. He is not an MVP candidate. I mean, 5 interceptions, and these throws are not even like close. Like, he's not even close to hitting receivers. They're horrible reads. And one of the things that concerns me about the Lions and the deep stretch here, obviously we talk about the pass rush weekly, but it's Jared Goff. Jared Goff is the X factor for this team if they're going to make a deep playoff run. And honestly, with Jared Goff at quarterback, I don't know if I'm buying it anymore.
No, I'm not at all. And again, if it were to be Chiefs and Lions, Jared Goff is the reason that I would go with the Chiefs.
100%. Trey's in the chat saying, I almost jinxed the Chiefs today. Parker Shoop, welcome to the chat. MVP is MVS. I mean, MVS had a legacy game today for the Saints. We'll talk about those two games right here, right now. We'll start off with the Saints game. This will be a little bit quicker than the Chiefs game. We'll have a lot more to say on that one. Brady, MVS legacy game, 3 catches, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Young Ho Koo, I mean, dude, what happened with him? Why did the Falcons lose besides Koo's missed kicks?
I mean, there were just a lot of self-inflicted mistakes for the Falcons, and I think that while the Falcons are a good team and they are going to win the NFC South, and this is why I can't pin them as serious NFC contenders. It seems like they have too many lapses in focus after big time wins or a couple wins in a row. They come out and they lay a dud. We saw it against Seattle. We saw it today, and it's just not the Falcons aren't consistent enough. I think that next year they might can get some things shored up, and this year is kind of the building year with Kirk Cousins there for year one. But I mean, there were fumbles, there were bad penalties, there were sacks, there were coverage busts, and just things that you can't do to win football games. I mean, they were just a net negative on the offensive side of the ball. The only positive really today was Bijan Robinson, who had a really big game.
Yeah, and on the Falcons side of things, you mentioned like potentially next year them getting better. Who knows? They could be in the market for Micah Parsons next season, which could help that pass rush, and that's one of their biggest weaknesses on the defensive side. They didn't play well defensively today. That's just the facts around the situation. Obviously, the offense moved the ball well, but wasn't able to convert these long drives into points very often. Obviously, Koo didn't help out with that. And you mentioned the consistency thing. The division basically is locked up right now. And one of the things that concerns me with the Falcons in the playoffs, right? You have an older quarterback who's not very mobile. You lack a pass rush. And you mentioned, like, this is the first time this team is playing any serious football in the last few seasons, it feels like, in Atlanta. And it does feel like potentially next year they could be more of a threat. And this year is kind of their introduction year. We got some new guys in the chat here. We got him saying Chiefs got bailed, typical frat. We got Parker Shoop, sports bet guy named Doc. We'll talk about this Chiefs game, Brady. What is your initial takeaways from the Chiefs kind of walking away with a win that they definitely did not deserve today?
Well, I mean, their offense just continues. It's not a bad offense, and I wouldn't even say it's a mediocre offense, but there are problems, and you can pin it on injury. But I just think there's a serious lack of explosive plays in this offense, and then the left tackle play is extremely concerning. Obviously, left tackle is the worst position to have a hole at on the offensive line, and I mean, the Broncos, one of the best pressuring teams in the NFL, they were able to get to Mahomes consistently today. The Chiefs weren't able to finish drives off. There were a couple missed throws from Mahomes. I think he was getting a little antsy back there with all the pressure that was in his face. And, I think that Isaiah Pacheco will help when he gets back. But I told you earlier today, I'm not sure he really changes this into a great offense. I mean, they're solid. What their strengths are on offense is they get just enough on third and medium. They get it to where it's third and manageable more often than not, and they sustain long drives to keep the other offense off the field. And today, not necessarily going against a great offense on the other side, but regardless, they were stringing drives together. Even if they weren't scoring six, there were a couple 5+ minute drives. I saw they have like the highest third down conversion rate in the NFL. That's their bread and butter. It's just methodical offense, but there's no explosion, and the protection hasn't been great the last 2 weeks either. And if I'm a Chiefs fan, that's what I'm most concerned with heading down the stretch here.
Yeah, we got Jackson Stewart popping in. Anybody but Kansas City. I know Brady's all about that one. Andy Reid and Brady got the same stash. Maybe Big Red and Brady are twins over there, the coaching tree. What I'll say about the Chiefs game, obviously, kind of being there in person and getting to watch it live, it was definitely it looked pretty bad just watching them block the Broncos today. It was pretty obvious the Broncos were going to bring more than 4 guys each play, and they couldn't hold up. Once Wanya Morris went down, Kingsley Sumata had no chance, and Mahomes basically was dropping back and having pressure. And, like a lot of people will say Mahomes had a bad game today. He missed 2 very important throws that I think made his day look a lot worse than it was, and those 2 throws were 2 wide open touchdowns that ultimately kept the Broncos in the game. Defensively, it's not great. We saw we talked about this on our Saturday show. They didn't do enough blitzing in the first half. Like the Broncos owned them in the first half. The second half, they were better, but they didn't come out and blitz early on, and the Broncos got out to that early lead. What I'll say with the Chiefs and the Broncos, the Chiefs played horrible football today. I guarantee you, we're looking past the Broncos and we're getting ready for next week. And the Broncos brought their A game. The Broncos came off a blowout loss to Baltimore last week and were ready to go. Chiefs weren't ready to go, and obviously you got the game they did, and they walked away luckily with a win, and now they're somehow 9-0. And I know everybody's going to be sitting in the comment section just saying the Chiefs are the worst 9-0 team in NFL history.
No,
but they're 9-0. They're 9-0, and they're playing.
They're not even the worst. I think 2019 Patriots and 2020 Steelers are both worse. But I will say, I don't think they've played 9-0 level. They find a way to get it done, and there's not a team that you can put above them right now. But they're just something that feels off with this team compared to previous Chiefs teams.
It's not a pretty Chiefs team. It's just not.
But also, we felt the same way last year too. and they ended up winning the whole thing. But who knows? But I do think they should have blitzed more in the first half. But I also think you're being a little bit tough on the defense for a unit that gave up
No, yeah.
16
After halftime, they were
points.
so much
Was it
better.
14? Was it 14 they gave up?
They gave up 14, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, second half until that last drive, they were tremendous. And really, the one thing that I noticed was, and a kind of a trend for Trent McDuffie, he struggles with these bigger bodied receivers. He's great against speed receivers, but when he goes up against these bigger guys, it feels like that's when he has a bit more problems. And
He probably had his worst game of his career today.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton did give him the work today, but I mean, the Chiefs, they're just well coached in all three phases, and being able to block that field goal is huge. And it could have been to where next week was for the 1 seed in the AFC, but now the Chiefs, at the very least, will hold on to that 1 seed for another week. I'm really interested to see the game next week. And on paper, I mean, I feel like the Bills are the better team, but I feel like the Chiefs are just finding ways to win every week, so it's going to be tough for me to pick against them in that one, even being on the road.
Let me say this before we get to some comments here real quick. Next week, we have an awesome slate of games. We got the Eagles Commanders on Thursday night. We got Chiefs Bills, and then we got Chargers and Bengals. Those are three matchups that I'm looking forward to season. All are going to have major impacts on the playoff race going forward. Him in the comments section. If you woke up early for the Giants and Panthers, you need to make better life choices. Unfortunately, I was up for that one. And
I tuned in right at halftime.
Trey in the chat saying, I don't know, man. Bryce Young is making a name for himself as the MVP. I don't know about that. But, hey, Bryce Young's back with 2 wins, and the Giants are currently on track to have that number 1 pick, Brady. Where do you think these two franchises are heading? We'll keep this one short because both these teams are cheeks.
Between the Giants and Panthers, right?
Yep.
The Giants, it feels like they're going to have to go quarterback, and I'm wondering if we are going to see Shedeur Sanders in New York. I don't necessarily think Shedeur is the best quarterback in this class, but the kind of player he is, the kind of flash and media hype he has, the New York media, it kind of seems like a perfect storm, but we'll see how it all shapes out. Panthers, I don't know. These last 2 weeks, I think Dave Canales might feel a little inclined to stick it out with Bryce Young again next year, and I know they've still been having not an easy time on offense, but you're seeing signs of life from Bryce Young these last 3 weeks. And I'm not ready to say he's back, they're going to develop him or anything like that, but I do think they may look somewhere else. Maybe even if they decide they want to go somewhere like the edge, they might even trade down, but we'll see. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback. I think they'd be well off to take a receiver, honestly, maybe Tet McMillan from Arizona.
Yeah, I think the Panthers are probably going to go with Bryce another year. We'll see what we get from him next year on the Giants side of things. Danny Dimes is done. That was disgusting. And unfortunately for Brian Daboll, like we both think Dable's a pretty good coach. Today does not look good for the Brian Daboll truthers.
Well, the thing is, I can't even be mad at Daboll. They turned the ball over multiple times in the red zone. That's not on him. I mean, Daniel Jones, a couple of bad decisions. You had Tyrone Tracy with the fumble in overtime too. It's not Daboll's fault.
No, I saw a meme out there that was like Tracy selling for a better quarterback next year on purpose, which was a good one. We'll talk about the Chicago Bears, New England Patriots, then we'll get into the Steelers. We have a few comments about both those teams. The Bears, man, this has to be the nail in the coffin for Shane Waldron. He needs to be gone, bro. This is the worst offensive coordinator in football. He can't manage to get 3 really good receivers involved. He has made Caleb Williams look like one of the worst rookie quarterbacks so far this season. I mean, where do the Bears go from here? Is it over for the Bears this season? And how many more games does Shane Waldron have left?
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised if he got fired this week. I'm not sure if they do pull a trigger on that, but at this point, whether it's in the offseason or before the season ends, Eberflus is gone too, in my opinion, or at least needs to be gone. And I don't necessarily think that Matt Eberflus is a bad coach. I know he's a defensive guy, and the defense has been pretty solid the last few years. But the fact of the matter is he's attached himself to 2 abysmal offensive coordinators and has not made good coaching personnel decisions. And I think they're just going to need a hard reset around that entire organization, especially offensively. I mean, DJ Moore looks disconnected right now. Rome Odunze is getting inconsistent touches. Keenan Allen has been a complete non-factor. And Caleb Williams just looks in over his head right now. I think they need to go big on the offensive line this offseason, and I think they need to find a good offensive-oriented head coach.
Ben Johnson, 2025 Chicago Bears fans, mark my word, Ben Johnson is more than likely going to be your head coach next season. I just think it's a match made in heaven right now with the amount of young talent they have in that offense, and I think that would lure Ben Johnson out of Detroit if they have a good run this season. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, Brady. I think they actually might have a chance in this division. I think a lot of people are hear me out. I know everybody's on Baltimore. Baltimore is the better team over the Steelers. But I mean, this Steelers team is gritty, dude. Like under Russ, they actually have a chance. Like with Justin, they didn't have a chance because they couldn't throw the ball. They can throw the ball. Him and George Pickens are a great duo. They pretty much held the Commanders in check majority of the game after the first half in offense. And then the passing game got going for the Steelers there, which allowed them to get back in the game. Like if they were rocking with Justin Fields at that point, they had no chance of coming back. With Russ, like he's been good enough to give them a chance. And it's not prime Russ by any means, but he's just good enough to where like the Steelers can come back in these games. The Steelers can work ahead of schedule. And they have that matchup against Baltimore next week. This was a perfect warm-up game for them, and they got the job done. They got the win. They maintained that division lead, and now they got Baltimore. This is a huge game for this division race. If they're able to take this game, they now have a 2-game lead over the Ravens, and that means something coming down the home stretch. They do still have games against the Bengals, which do mean a lot for both these teams, but I don't know, Brady. It's getting closer than a lot of people think.
I still think it's going to be Baltimore, but I do think that the Steelers team is good. They've already surpassed the win total I had for them in the preseason. I'm not going to lie, though.
We both had them as like a maybe playoff team.
Yeah, my idea was that Russ. I'm not gonna lie, I bought into the Russ wash allegations, and like Brian said, I don't think this is Seattle Russ being back by any means, but I think that.
Bro, hold up, look at this comment right here. Prime Russ, top 5 Q. Come on, Trey. Come on, Trey.
But I mean, Russell Wilson has been a lot better in Pittsburgh than he ever was in a Broncos uniform, and I think that he's sort of. I mean, people can call Russ corny, and he is, and all that stuff, but he legitimately just seems to be happy right now. He just seems to be enjoying Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh seems to be enjoying him. And I'm going to take my victory laps at some point. I have tons of bookmarks on Twitter from all the Fields truthers that were like, you can't possibly take him out. This offense gets so much worse with Russell Wilson. Justin Fields is the QB of the future. And I guess he still could be, but it was you can't take him out. They're so good. No. That was always bullcrap, and Russell Wilson is showing you that it was bullcrap. And Russell Wilson has much, much increased the ceiling of the Steelers offense. I mean, their running game has opened up due to the pass being an actual threat now. He's finding George Pickens deep. Muth is playing pretty good, and the defense is playing really well. The defense probably had one of their worst games today and still found a way at the end to get the key stops. And, I mean, even it's funny – we'll talk. I'm sure we'll talk about the Jets later, but Mike Williams already looks way happier being a Steeler than he ever did as a Jet, and it just shows kind of maybe the difference of personalities between Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. But I think this division is going to be really close. I do like Baltimore to beat Pittsburgh next week. They probably end up splitting regardless of what happens, but I'm still going with Baltimore in the division. Lamar Jackson is having an MVP year, and I mean that's another thing. The longer we go, I mean, pretty much everybody that was being discussed with Lamar and the MVP candidacy had a bad game this week, except for Joe Burrow, whose team isn't going to have the wins needed. And, I mean, everybody else, Goff, Allen, they all had bad games. So Lamar might be putting that thing on ice early.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show you how good of a coach Mike Tomlin is to consistently have this team winning year in and year out. I know we're not high on him because he's not necessarily one of the top minds of all time, but he gets that team winning every single year, which is a credit to him. Let's talk about the Cowboys and Eagles here. Trey mentions, I think the Cowboys should start Lance next week. Dom in here mentions his future as a backup. Obviously, the Eagles dominated today. Like, the Cowboys, their defense came out firing early, and they made it interesting to start. The Cowboys just didn't have enough at quarterback to even be close in this one. It was disgusting what we saw from Cooper Rush and then Trey Lance following them. What I will say for you guys that play fantasy football in the chat right now, both the Cowboys and Jaguars fantasy options are cooked for the rest of the season. They don't have their quarterbacks. They're trash. I mean, we saw CeeDee Lamb today basically be non-existent with Cooper Rush right now. Credit to Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Those guys have been ballers lately, but I don't trust any of these guys going forward in fantasy football. And as far as the Cowboys quarterback room, either guy they put back there is going to suck. Like, there's just no hope for them right now at quarterback. And on the Eagles side of things, we were talking about this in our chat. man, like that race for the number 1 seed is starting to heat up. If the Eagles win this game against the Commanders, and we thought the Lions were going to drop tonight's game, it really becomes an interesting conversation of who the number 1 seed in the NFC is going to be. Obviously, Detroit, I think we both agree, is going to have that 1 seed this year, but we'll see going down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm still not buying the Eagles personally. They're obviously going to be a playoff team, and I still do think they win the East because I don't think the Commanders are quite ready yet and are a little bit more flawed of a football team than the Eagles. But listen to ever since their second loss against Tampa, they've beaten the Browns, the Giants, the Bengals, the Jaguars, and the Cooper Rush Cowboys, all sub 500 teams. And we're going to see what they really are over these next 5-6 weeks. They've got the Commanders, the Rams, and the Ravens in 3 straight games. After that, they do get Carolina. But then after that, they have the Steelers and the Commanders back-to-back. So I do expect the Eagles to drop at least a couple of those ball games. And, I mean, we'll see what we're working with. My main problem with the Eagles is not roster talent. Their defense is a little bit suspect, but it's coaching. I just don't believe in Nick Sirianni at all.
Yeah, no, Sirianni, I know, dude, we're just both not high on Sirianni, but he saved his job this season again. Like, they're going to be in the playoffs again, and I think he gets another year. So it'll be interesting to see how the Eagles finish out this season. We got some fantasy questions here. Is T-Law out for the year? Yes, there was a report today that he is likely out for the year with an AC shoulder sprain. We'll see if he makes another appearance, but with the Jags out of the race already, there's no reason to risk it.
Good luck with Mac Jones.
What'd you say? Yeah, no, Mac Jones was
that's the perfect tank quarterback.
Yeah, they were bad. Can you trust Calvin Ridley going forward in fantasy football? This is an interesting question because obviously Will Levis and Calvin Ridley have had their problems this year, but it seems like Levis and him just worked out fine today against a good Chargers secondary. It'll be inconsistent going forward, but I think you get to play Calvin Ridley based on your matchups. All right, here we go. Let's talk about that Jets and Cardinals game, Brady. I don't understand why people thought the Jets were back. That was so dumb, bro. They won 1 game against the Texans.
Rome wasn't built in a day. Devontae Adams.
Yeah, so stupid, dude. The Jets are not back. They're bad. Aaron Rodgers honestly might retire next season and walk out with a 6-11 record. And then you got the Cardinals side of things. Dude, they're rolling right now. Him and the 49ers are going to be a tight race. The 49ers didn't show out today at all.
Hey, I called this Cardinals dub. I called it.
You did. And credit to Drew Petzing. I was pretty hard on him after like the first 3 or 4 weeks because they weren't getting Marv involved. But the offense is starting to click
more now.
They're starting to click right now. They changed some things, and that's one of the things. Like if you have an offensive coordinator or head coach who are stubborn, it never helps in the NFL. You need guys that can adjust. If guys who can't adjust, they last in the league. And the guys that do adjust do well.
That's why Andy Reid is the best play caller I've seen because Andy Reid has consistently always adapted to the personnel that he's had. One year, remember Kansas City with Alex Smith. I think they made the playoffs without a wide receiver scoring a single touchdown. And then they get Mahomes. At first with Mahomes, they have Tyreek Hill. They're taking all these downfield shots. A few years later, Tyreek isn't there anymore. They become a more ball control, intermediate, and short passing team. This year, they're really not an elite receiving group. Once again, they run the ball. They go to the sticks on passing downs. Like Andy Reid is just a chameleon when it comes to offense. And I think that to be a successful coach, like you're alluding to, you have to adapt to your personnel. Your personnel can't always just adapt to what you want to do. You have to play to your strengths.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, shout out to Georgia Tech, though. We got that.
Hey, that was
we got that win.
Amazing. That was amazing. I was obviously, for those of you that know, I work for Georgia Tech football. And we got to witness an upset over the number 4 team in the country yesterday. Got to have my first field storming experience. Saw the goalpost get taken down. Poor security was trying to hold on to the goalpost and hold it down. The GT students were not letting that happen. Shout out to Haynes King and go Jackets.
Yes, sir. So in this NFC West race, are you taking the Rams, 49ers, or the Cardinals to win this thing?
I'm still going with the Niners. I actually was a little disappointed with their effort today, and I think Brock Purdy is easily playing – he's not even playing bad football, but he's playing the worst that we've seen so far in his career. And they're going to have to keep
adjusting. Type vibes right now.
Yeah, they're going to have to keep adjusting to life with that Ayuk, but it's huge that they got McCaffrey back. I mean, plug him in instantly, 100-plus all-purpose yards for CMC, and you can only assume that he's going to get better. Ricky Pearsall had a big touchdown with a good yak, his first career touchdown. And I think the Niners are going to be fine. I think the Niners are the most battle-tested of the group, even with LA in the mix. And yeah, I really don't know how it's going to shake out between the Cardinals and Rams. But, I mean, I've been riding the Cardinals train. I had them as my preseason number 7. I'm going to keep rocking out with Arizona.
Dude, the thing is weird. Like every week, I'm just like, this is the week the Cardinals go back to being the Cardinals, and they just
Dude,
keep
they've
winning right
found,
now.
like you said, Drew Penzing, like he's found what they like to do. They occasionally send Kyler on quarterback runs on boots. They have James Conner, obviously, has had a really strong season. Running the ball is kind of their strength. And then they're finding Marvin Harrison more often, and they're finding Trey McBride. Those are their real 2 pass catchers, and they've just got something good going. And their defense is, I think, very much outperforming what we expected coming into the year.
100%.
And it all starts with Budda Baker. Budda Baker is one of the most underrated defensive players in the league, in my opinion. And he is the captain of that defense and has them right.
Yeah, 100%. Trey mentions and the Seahawks. No.
Get ready for the draft, buddy.
Ain't no way the Seahawks are making it. All right. Let's talk real quick about the AFC. Hey, let us know if you guys have any last-minute questions before we wrap up this show. We're going to talk about the AFC playoff side of things right now. All right. We talked about this before. The 6 and 7 seed in the AFC is completely up for grabs. Chargers took another step forward. And I really do think the Chargers are going to be in that playoff mix. Their defense is unreal. They've been playing great football.
They're the only team in the NFL that hasn't allowed more than 20 points in a game.
Yeah, and they have a tough schedule coming up. That is true. They do have some tough games coming up. Obviously, we mentioned the Bengals are this week, which is going to be a great test for them. But they've been playing great football. I do think they get to that 10-win mark and kind of sneak into that playoffs. But who's going to be that 7th seed? And you know what? I don't think it's going to be Cincinnati. I really don't.
I do.
See, the thing is, you look at their schedule and you look at how they've been playing, and it's like, how do I buy into this team? I mean, they might get in at 9-8. Like, it actually might be a 9-8 team that gets in at that 7 seed. And if they are 9-8 and get in, I could see it.
Well,
but
who do you think is getting in over
10 and 7?
Who do you think is getting in over them, though?
The Broncos.
No, man. I just can't trust a Bo Nix team.
I can't trust it either. But
to get over Joe Burrow. Let's see.
Good.
Okay, Bengals do have a tough. Okay, the Bengals have the Chargers, the Steelers, Cowboys, Titans, Browns. They should have at least 3 consecutive wins there with the Cowboys, Titans, and Bengals, which leaves them with 4 games against the Steelers twice, the Broncos, and the Chargers. If they can
go 2-2,
split those, they go 5-2 over their last 7, and they're sitting at what 9-8. That gets.
That's what I'm saying. Like, does that even get you in though?
I think so. I don't believe in this Broncos team at all. And I think today it should not aid the Broncos case. It shouldn't be they hung with the Chiefs. It should be more of a kind of indictment on the Chiefs today. Oh, wow, they really need to step up from the level they played at today. This is not a Broncos are, wow, they're actually a good team game. This is, like you said, the Chiefs kind of overlooking them a little bit. Broncos at the Falcons next week. I'm giving them an L there. But it does lighten up after that until they get to the Chargers, the Bengals, and the Chiefs, those last 3. I don't think they're winning 2 out of those 3. There's a chance that they could lose.
It'll be interesting, though, because in Week 18, if the Chiefs are undefeated and they had the 1 seed, they could bench, and then it would be like, which would be – that would suck for the playoff thing. If they're like 1 game they need to clinch and the Chiefs just bench everybody, that would be cool.
Honestly, I don't know if the Chiefs would bench everybody at least off the rip in that game because you don't want a divisional rival getting in.
They would. They're with the injuries they've had this year, they'd bench everybody.
I think they would bench them at some point in the game, but not to start the game.
It'd be interesting to see. And then we got the Colts. The Colts are out of it now.
They're done. They're done. I mean, Josh Allen.
Do they go back to AR at this point?
That's what I was saying earlier this week. I said if Joe Flacco had a bad performance, might as well look back into AR because your playoff chances are dwindling, and this is the guy that's supposed to be the future of your team. So yeah, I would definitely put AR back in there. I mean, Joe Flacco threw 3 picks, so
yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go. Final question of the night: is Brian Thomas Jr. and DeAndre Swift for AJ Brown valid? No, I'm out on. Like I said, I'm out on Jaguars options this season. I mean, Mac Jones was horrible today. I thought
he was saying he's getting AJ Brown. If you're getting AJ Brown, yeah, it's valid.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. If you're getting AJ Brown, that's a good trade. But if you're trading away BTJ and Swift, and that's who you're getting in the deal, hey, I'm not buying that. I would not do that deal in a heartbeat. But, hey, we'll be back Monday night live on Twitter again. So make sure you guys tune into that. We really appreciate you guys tuning into the show tonight. I love all the comments tonight. Keep it up going forward. hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys next time on Blitz Sports Media.